Welcome to Sensible Health Solutions, the show where we simplify health and wellness. Join your hosts, Hallie Fields and Dr. Scott Luper, as they share practical tips and expert insight to help you navigate common ailments, nutrition, and overall well-being. Tune in for straightforward advice that empowers you to live a healthier life.
Hi, Dr. Luper. How are you?
Doing good. Doing real good.
Good. Glad to hear. Well, I think that this month would be nice to focus on the topic of longevity and how we might be able to live longer and increase our lifespans.
Yeah, that's a topic that's near and dear to me because I'm 63 and I want to live a lot longer than what I've done so far. So I am actively involved in trying to figure out how to squeeze as much life out of life.
Yeah, how to get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, so what I've been doing is, actually what I did is I taught a class for Ollie, which is a Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and it's a retired person's class thing, and I did a series of classes, and then I did a follow-up series of classes. So I got a chance to do a deep dive into longevity. And what most people have done, and what I did as well, is I looked into the areas on the planet where people tend to live longer, the so-called blue zones, and try to figure out what's common in these areas, what things that people do and what things can we do to enhance the quality of life.
So where are these blue zones?
Well, they're scattered around the globe. There's one in Okinawa. There's one in Corsica. It's a little island off the coast of Italy. There's an area in Greece.
Why are they considered, or why are they called blue zones?
I don't know why they're called blue zones. They're just where people tend to live longer.
Okay.
There's a high concentration of people who lived over 100 years.
Okay.
And, they've kept their wits, they're coordinated, they're, functional and still doing life. There's a place in Nicaragua that's one of these blue zones. And so what research have done is they've gone down there and talked to people and, ran tests on them and kind of checked out and see what do they do and are they different? Is their genes differently or is their lifestyle different? And really what they've discovered is it has more to do with lifestyle, because the genes vary a lot from one blue zone to the other. There's not a whole lot of overlap genetically, but there's a lot of overlap in terms of lifestyle.
Okay, so what habits are they implementing across all areas?
Well, as it so often is the case, it boils down to eat, ride, and exercise.
always. And sleep.
And sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
Lots of rest.
And actually, one of the things that really shows up over and over again in these blue zones is that there's a social advantage to living long. That people who have long life tend to be held in high regard. And they tend to get advantages as they get older. And so there's this payoff for living old. It's not like people get old and then they're, off to themselves or out of date
ignored
and bored and put in some kind of home and kind of ignored. No, not at all. These people are front and center for life. They are the people that tend to run things, or the elders that are looked upon with pride and respect. Mm-hmm. And there tends to be a lot of them. So they are able to maintain a vibrant social circle of people who are younger and also people who are really their same age. And so there's a payoff to living long in these blue zones. That's one of the common elements in the blue zones.
How are they able to do it, though, with, a lifespan only really lasting, if you're lucky, late 80s? How are they able to get up to the hundreds or the 90s?
Yeah, so what they do, what they do. This is a good question. What they do is they have a society or a culture or a habit of eating well. And what they they look at what exactly do they eat? What's common between the different areas? And really what the common element is that they eat whole foods. Mm-hmm. They don't eat fake food. They don't eat deep fried food or or I mean, not much. They don't live on junk food, that kind of thing, right? Processed foods. They don't live on that at all. What they live on is real food. There's some more specific elements that are similar. They tend to eat beans and lots of fruits and vegetables and high quality oils and nuts and seeds, which is another way of getting high quality oils in. The oils seem to be particularly important for longevity.
Because of the cholesterol?
You know, interesting about cholesterol, the cholesterol, it tends to be high. They tend to have high cholesterol.
Yeah, we've done a show on cholesterol, and you've talked about, the longevity, and the higher your cholesterol is, the actual longer you tend to live.
Yep.
Because of the associated risk of clumsiness or accident proneness.
Yep. Cholesterol turns out to be a healthy and useful thing, aside from the fact that it can clog your arteries and kill you with a heart attack and stroke. So there's that. I mean, it has a downside.
Yeah.
But if you can survive the heart attack and stroke phase and get into actually being really long-lived, in your late 70s, early 80s, and older, then the higher your cholesterol is, then the longer you live.
Wonderful.
It's a mark of health.
Sure.
It's a sign of metabolic prowess.
Right. And so we've talked about in the past incorporating like coconut oil or seeds and nuts to increase that cholesterol level.
Yep.
I'm interested, though, what you said that they ate a high amount of beans. Was that because that was most available to them, or did they
I think
not
they just
eat
like
as
beans.
much? Did they not incorporate as much meat into their diet?
No, not so much. They're not really like super heavy-duty meat eaters.
Yeah.
They tend to be relatively light on the meat side.
Yeah, Americans are super heavy-duty meat eaters,
Yes,
and
they
we
are.
prioritize protein, which protein is really important for everything.
Yes, it is. We are made up of protein. We are
Absolutely.
protein.
Yeah, we're one big protein. But, yeah.
And so you need protein, for sure. But you don't need excessive amounts of protein. Protein can go bad. If you overeat protein, it tends to be one of the worst things when it rots in your digestive system. It makes all kinds of horrible, nasty stuff. I mean, you think about in real life, the stinkiest, worst things that could ever rot are proteins.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
The last one to get there is a rotten egg. Right? That was the what we said when we were kids. Because we couldn't think of anything worse than a rotten egg.
Yeah, no, rotten eggs are pretty bad. Those ones are the worst.
So if you don't digest your protein completely, then it tends to rot in your digestive system. It makes all kinds of nasty things that your body has to deal with. They're very toxic. They're hard on your liver. They're hard on your metabolism generally. And they tend to shorten your life.
Yeah.
So one of the things that shows up over and over again is people who live a long time tend to have good blood sugar control. Diabetics tend not to live very long, whereas people don't have diabetes tend to live longer. And the reason why is because sugar is sticky. And if you have high levels of sugar in your system, then it tends to stick to stuff. We were made up of proteins, so it tends to stick to the proteins. And a lot of times the way the proteins work, in order for them to be functional, they have to have a certain shape. Either they're enzymes that have to have a certain shape, otherwise they can't do their enzyme thing, or they're structural proteins that have to have a certain shape, otherwise they don't perform their structural function correctly. And so you get these what's known as accumulated glycosylated end products. Glycosylated means it's sugarified, otherwise known as AGE, age. And that really is a great acronym because it describes what happens when your blood sugars get high. You age.
You age.
So the folks that live a long time tend to have better blood sugar control. All of us have the capacity to have our cells go in and clean up where the sugar is stuck, because all of us have some sugar in our bloodstream, because we have to, because that's what we burn for fuel. And so we're designed to be able to deal with some amount of sugar, stickifiedness, and then clean it up. If it piles up too much, it exceeds our ability to clean and repair from it, and that's when you get the problems associated with high blood sugars, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes. So these folks tend to not have those problems, and they tend to keep up on having their body be able to repair from the sugar damage.
I wonder if that's also correlated to more of an active lifestyle.
Without a doubt, 100%. That's one of the reasons why they do manage their blood sugars well, is because they tend to use those calories rather than just letting them sit around and, turn to fat.
Right.
You don't have to be perfectly slim to have or slender to have a long life. Lots of people have some weight on them. Few people are very fat. Most of the time they're, healthy.
Yeah,
They have a
fat
healthy
and
amount
happy.
a healthy amount of body fat on them. So the exercise tends to be not super vigorous.
Moderate.
Yeah, people who tend to be like elite athletes tend not to live a long time. They tend to break down.
They run themselves into the
Yep.
ground.
It's hard on them. That lifestyle is hard on them. Folks that live a long time tend to have more moderate activities. And what they
Yoga.
mostly do is they exercise in ways that stimulate their circulatory system without breaking things down.
Walking.
Yep.
Yoga.
Yep. So in some societies, they're not particularly affluent, so they have to do a lot of things. Like they have to go get water, right, at the creek or at the pump or at the fountain, right? And so they'll bring this bucket and walk a mile, get water, and then walk back. And a lot of times the older folks do that. They enjoy it. They go visit. They have their
And that's a
friends
part of
there.
their social
and it's a part of
connection.
their life. They do this thing. They do this activity. I was thinking of a story of one person who was like 105. And what they did every morning is they climbed down this steep hillside that's rocky and muddy down the stream bank, and then go down and bathe in the stream and then walk back up out of this thing. And what they claimed was the stream bathing was the thing that kept them healthy. The researchers were suspicious that steep walk down the hillside and back up again might have had something to do with it.
Right. It wasn't just the water itself. It wasn't the fountain of youth.
And so this activity thing is super important. And again, what we're trying to do is try to keep the maintenance systems up and running in our bodies. We have the capacity to heal. Now that decreases as time goes on, but we're trying to squeeze as much out of that as we can. And it turns out you can. If you can keep circulation going, and you can here's the other thing that's weird. If you can keep a tiny little bit of poison in your system that stimulates your body's ability to repair, then you tend to live longer.
Yeah, that was the hormetic effect.
Yeah.
That was the 102-year-old lady in France who had 2 cigarettes a day.
Yeah, 122.
Oh, 122
is she lived to. And she, in 7 months, that's how old she was when she died. And she spent most of her life as a smoker. But she was a funny kind of smoker, an odd smoker, in that she only smoked 2 cigarettes a day. She started in her early 20s, I think at the age of 20, and quit by the time she got to be 117. And she said, I can feel it's not good for me.
Okay.
And so she quit smoking at 117.
Okay. That was time to quit. That was time to be done.
And what she did is she claimed that her longevity was due to olive oil.
Oh.
That she loved olive oil. She used it on her skin. She used it in her diet. She just really basically guzzled olive oil and just was healthier for it. And again, we're talking about healthy oils.
Yeah.
Oils are particularly good
Yeah.
for us to keep us healthy. Now, the thing is, she wasn't just eating healthy olive oil. She was also eating chocolate, and she ate a huge amount of chocolate. She wasn't really a bastion of health, but she was. She was feisty. She had a good social circle around her. She was appreciated for being as healthy she was as she grew older. She walked everywhere. She lived in a town that she could get around in by walking. So that's how she got around. She got around by walking. And then she was also highly motivated to stay alive based on her living arrangement. She had sold her apartment to a man who was going to pay her rent or whatever, her mortgage, while she was alive, and then he was going to take over when she died.
Okay.
And so she got paid. Now it wasn't her rent. She got paid. She got paid.
Oh, okay.
And the arrangement was if you died, then I take it over for whatever the cost. And if you stay alive, I'm going to keep on paying you. So in the end, he ended up paying 3 times the cost.
As much as he needed for this house?
Because she kept living and living and living and living and living.
And they made that arrangement when she was like 90?
Yeah, something like that.
No.
Up to 122. And he eventually did. I was thinking that maybe she would have lived longer than he did. No, he eventually took the place over and was lovely.
And got a few years in it. What was her name again?
Jean Clement.
Jean Clement.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jean Clement.
Okay. And so is France one of these blue zones?
You know, France people tend to live longer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she was in Nice. I don't think Nice is particularly a blue zone. But, you know, she had that Mediterranean lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She ate the
So
olive oil
the
and
olive oil,
fruits and don't overeat and little bits of fish, anti-inflammatory, all that
easily
stuff.
processed protein.
Yep.
Which is major. Interesting. Okay, so another nation I know that lives quite a long time, India. They do lots of yoga.
They can.
They eat lots of coconut oil.
Yes. Same kind of thing. They're not necessarily living a Mediterranean lifestyle, but they're
Right.
doing a lot of similarities there. Right, exactly. And also, they become venerated as they get older and appreciated. And they have this fabulosity that comes with surviving long enough where people really do appreciate you and they're glad that you're, around. And so the social circle is very strong.
I wonder how much that's changed in recent times where population has just become so over inundated for the area.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
We did go to India. We spent a couple of weeks in India and definitely got a good impression of what it's like to live there.
Right.
And the strongest impression we have was it was overpopulated.
Right, and the consideration of environmental pollution there and all of the debris. I wonder. I haven't looked into any recent statistics.
Yeah, India's not particularly famous for being a blue zone, but you're right. There are lots and lots of people that live a long time. First of all, there's lots and lots of people there, period. But,
Right.
Older folks are common.
Okay.
So let me think if there's something else that kind of stands out. Let's go through the list again, what really it takes to live long. And what you need to do is you need to eat food. Yeah, duh. You need to eat whole foods, real food, not fake food, not manufactured food, but, food that grows from the ground. So it turns out to be adequate amounts of protein, not excessive. It turns out to be lots of fruits and vegetables. If you're going to be doing grains, they tend to be whole grains, is what they are. Real bread that's actually, ground locally and made, and lots of oil, lots of nuts and seeds and beans.
Good oil, not just
good oil.
any oil, not canola oil.
High quality oil, right. It also, these folks tend to be good at sleeping. Insomniacs tend not to live a long time. They also tend to be active, and they are active usually in a way that's moderate. Not excessive. They don't necessarily run marathons, but what they do is they work and they walk from place to place. And they love to visit. They don't have excessively busy lifestyles. They tend to have time to be able to spend time with people and enjoy life. They get stuff done, but they're famous for being able to have the time to be able to, do the coffee shop thing, right?
Yeah,
Chat their friends up.
Right, they make connections, and connections help form purpose.
Yep.
And you have to have purpose.
So it's interesting when you
Life.
look at the advantage that comes from having a good social circle. It tends to be very, very predictive and very powerful for longevity. More than, things that you would think, like not smoking.
Yeah.
Not smoking is absolutely helpful. There's a very good chance it's going to lengthen your life by not smoking.
Yeah.
Smokers tend to die younger, for
Far
sure.
earlier,
They
yeah.
get diseases and cancer, but just aside from all that, they just tend to die younger. And having a good social circle is about 2 to 3 times more powerful effect on your longevity than not smoking.
So you could be a smoker and be smoking outside socially, and that would, promote longevity.
No, we're doing, this is like, the show tends to be like an advertisement for smoking. Yes, that is true. Those things are true. And we did talk about if you imbibe in small amounts of poison,
Right.
that it stimulates your body.
Like moderate alcohol consumption.
Yes, exactly.
Just enough to clean the engine.
The occasional cigarette, I guess. It's funny, we talk about this. We've done this in the shows before. I have yet to smoke any cigarettes for my health, and I have yet to talk any patients to smoking cigarettes for their health.
I don't think any of the patients are going to buy it, but...
It's too hard to get your head around it.
Yeah.
I do eat a piece of bacon, though, every Sunday. One piece of bacon every Sunday for my health, because I need to get some toxicity into my system. And it's a delicious way to get
is the way to do
toxic, right? So I eat a piece of bacon and just do the one. Yeah, one piece. That's it. Every Sunday. For my health.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to live as long as I can.
You should be extra healthy and have 2 pieces of bacon.
So I think personally, as I'm trying to live longer and kind of get a feel for what works and what doesn't work, the 2 things that seem to be the biggest help are for me to eat good food and for me to exercise.
And sleep.
There's a vitality. Sleeping, I'm such a good sleeper, I just take it for granted at this point. But the eating good food, if I ever get wobbly, like we're traveling and we eat kind of junk food, I always feel toxic and horrible. And so that tends to be self-limiting in itself because I just don't like the way I feel. And the exercise, I just feel fabulous doing it. Makes me feel, warm and happy and enthusiastic.
It releases the endorphins.
Yep.
It releases
There's
all
all
the mental stimulating hormones that your body needs to feel happy and productive. I want to go back to eating whole foods. What about fasting? There's a lot of people out there who fast, and there's a lot of evidence that show like even 12-hour fasting can promote longevity.
Yep, that's true. You're right. It turns out if you overeat, then your body tends to accumulate fat, and but not just because of the fact there's too many calories coming in, but because toxicity is generated in your gut, and your liver has to pack fat in to deal with that toxicity. And so, aside from the fact you have excess calories, the toxins that are generated from the undigested food really are hard on your system, in and of it, independent of the excess calories. So the folks who learn to, like, culturally to not overeat, the Okinawans. Remember we talked about one of the blue zones. The Okinawans are famous for this. They have a saying: stop eating when you're 80% full. Don't wait until you fill up.
Yeah.
And so, it's like parents teach their kids, right? And so they have this tendency not to overeat.
That's funny because I'm teaching my kid to eat all of her food and to eat so she's full so that I don't have to make food in another 2 to 3 hours.
I'm so sorry you come to this American culture and you're shortening your child's life. You need to teach her, practice say, don't eat all your food.
Well, she is fine
full.
doing that. She does not eat all of her food, so we don't have to work on that. Another thing that I hear that promotes longevity is sauna.
Yeah, it's another way to get the toxins out.
Okay.
So what you do is you sweat, and the sweat glands grab, stuff from one side and dump it to the other side, and the toxins go out with it. So it's a legitimate, useful way to get rid of nastiness in your body and help keep you clean and healthy. So, yeah, you're right. Also, saunas traditionally are punctuated with cold plunges.
Yeah, or like snow rolls.
Yep. And so what that does is it stimulates your body to produce more heat through your metabolism. It's a metabolic stimulant, and that tends to keep us healthy as well.
And it promotes circulatory health.
Yep.
Gets your blood pumping through your body faster.
So one of the things, let's go back to food. One of the things that's really important, I mentioned fruits and vegetables, but I didn't really dive down deep enough on that one. It's the colored fruits and vegetables that are particularly helpful. So purple, blues,
And the
oranges.
purple has the free radicals, or the fruit anthocyanins.
Anthocyanins, yeah. So that it has anthocyanins, which would act as antioxidants and protect us from oxidation. Metabolism tends to generate a lot of oxidative byproducts, which damage us. And so the antioxidants help suck those up and diffuse them so that they don't generate damage, cellular damage, and so we stay healthier. It takes less energy to keep us functional because we're not having to rebuild our cells every day from the inside out. And so we do better with that.
And alongside of the purple, fruits and berries, you want to do like dark green, leafy greens.
So anything with color, greens, purples, blues, yellows, oranges, you name it, all the colors, except for white.
Cauliflower.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Really?
Cauliflower is not the best, yeah.
Aww.
It's really basically, it's broccoli that's got a mutation, and so it doesn't make the chlorophyll. And so it's weaker. I mean, it's sweet and delicious. It tastes good. If you're going for taste, cauliflower is great. The nice thing about cauliflower, it's got enough carbohydrates in it that you can process it and turn it into pizza crust.
You can process it and turn it into pizza crust or rice or, I mean, whatever else you want to be creative.
Yeah, it's no longer a vegetable.
Bread.
It's turned into a carb.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed because I was thinking I could eat pizza if it was on a vegetable crust. This is going to be great. So I bought 5 different kinds, tried them all, bought the crust by themselves even, and discovered that they turn cauliflower into a carbohydrate. And there was no health benefit whatsoever.
There's none, not even how it
Nothing.
metabolizes.
Zippo.
You recorded it on your monitor and your blood
Yeah, it was
sugar's
the same as just eating pizza. It was no different whatsoever. I mean, I guess if you're allergic to wheat, and you don't have to get exposed to the allergy, but in terms of blood sugar control and trying to eat something that's healthy, forget it. Nope.
Well, hopefully we both live to the day where they scientifically create a healthy pizza.
You can. But
that doesn't compromise the flavor or...
I think it's the frozen part that's really gets in the way of pizza.
No.
It is possible to make a healthy pizza. You make the healthy bread, you make the healthy sauce, you take the healthy stuff, you chop it up, you got some leaves, right? And you got a fairly decent,
But just
appetizer.
not as much cheese or pepperoni.
Yeah, now you're in trouble. Now
or
you're in trouble.
salami.
Oh, heaven forbid. The pepperoni's horrible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think that's all we have time for on this episode.
All right. Hey, live long and prosper.
Hey, thanks. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sensible Health Solutions. We hope you found today's discussion enlightening and packed with practical tips to enhance your wellness journey. Remember, small changes can lead to big results. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content possible. Stay connected with us on social media for more health insights and updates. You can find us at Sensible Health Solutions across all social platforms. Until next time, stay sensible and stay healthy. This content is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Seek medical advice from a healthcare professional for any medical conditions.